going to record today's session. Well, welcome everyone. Again, just a quick reminder, I'm Alan Persia. I am one of the co-chairs of the Birchbark Expedition Program, and I'm so glad to see you all came out tonight amongst all the weather and snow and threateningness. And I got a couple emails from people sort of saying, we're on, are we on, are we on, are we on? It's like, yes, it's Buffalo, man, come on, we're on. I get such a kick out of it. So I work with customers all around the country and all around the globe. And I just love it when they show their, oh, we got 20 inches of snow. And I was like, yeah, we call that more than a dusting, but yoga class is still on. So, yeah, this is nothing, right? So anyway, thanks for coming up, but do drive home safe when you get home. My co-chair, Dave Bliss. I think you all met them. We had, I'm not going to have the guides all introduce themselves, but you probably got a chance to meet them last time. All right, so we got lots to cover today. Today is kind of a lot different than last month. Last month, we had jam. We had lots of topics we had to cover. This month, we've got probably just shy under an hour just of content, talking and discussing how things go. Then you're going to break up, obviously, into your crews. You're going to work with a guide. This is not necessarily the guide that's going to go with you, but it's the guide that's going to help you make decisions and help you make decisions on food, your itinerary, and some other elements. So it's going to be kind of a working session. And when you're done and you turn in your paperwork, which is going to be your menu planner sheet, which we will make sure every crew has one of these, and your itinerary planning worksheet. When you turn in these, then at that point you are free to go, and we'll kind of check you off the list, and you can head out into the snow and head home. So, anyone have any questions on how it's going to work tonight? Awesome. All right. So itinerary. We're going to cover Canadian immigration. It's one of the most common questions that pops up. Talk about what the best practices on that. Some of the crews have done outstanding things, and we've gotten into some real balls of wax. And in case of emergency, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens if there's an emergency, not only in the backcountry up in Canada, but also what happens if there's an emergency at home and somebody at home needs to get a hold of a crew, how that happens. And then we're going to get you out of your chairs again for physical conditioning session. Eric Reynolds is one of our guides, who's put together a program specifically focused on building the muscles and building strength in those critical areas that enable you to be a strong paddler and a strong portager. And depending on your itinerary, you may want to focus on portaging more than paddling, but it usually, depends on where you go. We'll talk at the end about leave no trace and what kind of training you should do with your crews before you go. We'll close up with a risk zone, and then we'll peel off and do your itinerary planning, your menu selection, talk a little bit about your crew roster, and then we'll just kind of wrap up with Q&A. So all makes sense? Yep. All right. So just a quick couple note. I mean, who's not been to Canada? Okay, which is pretty normal, right? I mean, most everyone's probably been up there. You probably know the basic drill, right? You go to the bridge, they're going to ask you for your documentation. This is a little different because you're going to have a crew of youth that are not, to the adults I'm speaking, that are not yours, all right? So they're usually looking for some documentation and some paperwork that's a little different. So key thing is, we've learned this the hard way, is first of all, it's really important that you have good, accurate crew roster on your organization's letterhead. So your troop letterhead, and if you haven't made one yet, it's really easy, right? Plop your logo and put a return address on the top of it. But make a roster letterhead, and we put in the handbook an example. So if you would look through the advisor handbook, there's an example in there. Make sure you have each scout's name, their address, their phone number, their parents' phone number, obviously, place of birth, and the name of the parent or legal guardian. And that is critical because what you're trying to show is that we're a youth group. However, the rules are a little different for when you cross with a youth group. The youth don't need passports or passport cards. They could just use their a copy of their birth certificate and or some form of government ID for the youth. The adults need to have a passport enhanced driveway.
School ID is ideal for them.
Yeah, school ID is perfectly fine.
It's issued by a government authority.
Okay.
Birth certificate and that.
next. You need both. Yep. Copy of the birth certificate. It doesn't have to be raised seal. It just has to be a copy of the birth certificate and a school ID along with this letterhead. And then this is the magic thing. One packet for vehicle that has those riders in that packet. Okay? Where we've had screw ups is, oh, it's in that car in front of us and it's heading through the toll booth and he's on his way. All right, so it's important you make 2 binders, 1 for each car or 3. All right, yeah, question.
Just a quick question. Passport, will you still need a birth certificate for the?
If the youth has a passport, that's all you need. That's all you need.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Okay. But you remember, they would still need to be on this roster because you need to prove that if it's your son, then it's not an issue. But if it's somebody else's son or daughter, then it's got to be, okay? And it never hurts to have an extra copy of this stuff, because remember, you got to come back, and somehow stuff, when it goes to Algonquin, sometimes it doesn't come back. So having an extra copy of all this stuff is probably not a bad idea.
You skipped over the permissions.
Yes, well, we'll talk about that in a quick second here. So I will tell you one thing, that the best packet I've ever seen, congratulations Troop 92, has ever come from you guys. They brought an example of it. It basically is a nice, would you hold it up real quick just for a second? They put together a nice little packet that has little pockets for all this information for each youth. And basically what happens when you show up and you hand this over to the inspector at the booth, if he sees you're organized, he's probably just going to hand it right back to you and say, have a nice trip. If you're handing him paper and it's blowing out the window and there's passports falling out of the bottom of it, it's just going to make your crossing a little bit more difficult. Okay. Other sort of issues, right? No firewood, no firearms, no fireworks, no controlled substances. All right. Hopefully we don't need to. I know you're all scouters and you know all that stuff.
If the customs agent asks you if you have any weapons in the car, you have a pocket knife, tell them you have the pocket.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Customs considers that Canadian customs considers that a weapon.
Yep. All right.
They'll quote the statistics of the number of people who were seriously hurt with a pocket knife.
Right. So another element to this is part of this packet, by the way, is that permission, so that medical form / permission slip. That's we provided a copy in the advisor's guide. Grab one real quick. Stephen wants to answer the far left. Sure, quick second. In this packet there is a it's medical form. You guys are probably used to it from summer camp. Same old, same old. This serves 2 purposes. It's not only a medical form for if there was any emergency, we know what medications or what the medical history of the youth is, but it also serves as a permission slip. It's a consent to participate on that first page. The parents have to sign it. If you're in a situation where the parents are separated, divorced, the youth are in some kind of shared custody. I was thinking possession, and that's not the right word. The moms may think it is, but no. But anyway, custody, then it's really important that you have a note or something, and we actually recommend having that notarized. 2 parents go to the bank with a note that says we give permission to so-and-so to be in Canada, and both parents sign. So there's just no issue. The only other time we've had an issue too is if the youth has a court order, or we've had let's see, was it custody? Not custody. The heck was it? I know we're both drawing a blank here. But anyway, there was a court order for this young man to stay away from somebody, and it turned up when they punched his name into the computer, and that caused order of protection. Restraining order. That's what it was. And it turned up, and they wanted to make sure that the person that they're supposed to stay away with was not as part of this group, or was going to be in Canada, and that took almost an hour, right? So just want to make sure of that. All right? Any questions with that? All the crews, if they have a packet like their crew from 92 showed, right through, and on you go. Okay. All right. In case of emergency, we send each crew up with one of these inReach devices. We have a couple different generations of them. They're satellite communicators. We can send and receive text messages with it. We can get weather reports. We can call SOS with the devices. We can communicate with the Ontario Provincial Police. We can communicate with the park, with those kinds of things. So each one of the guys will have one of these things with them the entire time, and they turned out to be very reliable. They also have like I said, they have the ability to send and receive text messages. It would be helpful if you had the cell phone number of all the adults of parents with you. And we asked for that as part of the roster registration thing, but it wouldn't hurt to have a little card, a little something like that has Timmy's mom's cell phone number on it. Okay, so you've got everybody's cell phone number, and then it's in a fashion that you can either put it in a plastic bag, take it in the backcountry with you. Right, it would be wise. If something were to happen and we have to evacuate them, it would be nice for them to get a text message from us saying, he's been evacuated, he'll be at the Huntsville Hospital within the next 20 minutes. Here, and of course, we'll send the phone number for the Huntsville Hospital along with that message so that they know where Timmy or Tina end up, okay? All right, so we have that ability to communicate. And our procedures to manage all this, the guides have been trained on that. Well, good. None of the guys did. We are. So, and we have an evacuation procedure that we're finding this year. Yeah. Well, we do. Although we do get charged like 50 cents a message when they come and go. So, a couple of years we've had people decide to send sweet nothings. And by the way, we see every message that comes and goes across all these. So, one of you guides sent dear sweet nothings to their wives, and I know about it. So. All right, so Eric, why don't you take it from here and talk about physical conditioning?
All righty. Yeah, we're videotaping this, so hold on. We're just setting up the camera. All right, I'm Eric Reynolds, and I'm one of the guys, and what we're going to do is talk a little bit about dehydration and physical conditioning. The reason why is there's a lot of different things that you can do to hurt yourself. A lot of them come to do with you're dehydrated or you're out of shape. Now, the good news is that's all totally avoidable, and we're going to give you some things that you can do to prevent that. You want to move on to the slide there?
Sure.
Okay. You have my presentation there?
That is your presentation.
Okay, great. Okay, getting into Birchbark shape. This is in different orders. We're going to start out with the physical fitness as opposed to the dehydration. The physical fitness, there's a program that I sent out to you. And this presentation I'm doing right now is designed and to introduce and explain those pass outs that I gave you. They're designed to be taken back and work with your troops in your local meetings and stuff like that. So take those back and with you and put them to good use. Your wilderness adventure is all about paddling and portaging. This is going to put a lot of demands on your cardio system and on your joints. One of the main areas that seems to get injured, joint-wise anyways, are shoulders because of portaging and paddling. So what you want to do is make sure you're in good shape for that. Next slide, please. It's like dehydration. Injuries due to being out of shape going into the woods are totally preventable. If you start now, you'll have an excellent adventure. If you wait, the younger adults and the scouts will get into shape during the trek. Unfortunately, for people my age and older, you won't. Start now. So you want to get into shape now so that you can have some fun come this year. All right, next slide, please. The first step with regards to getting into shape for Birchbark is to go see your physician. Make sure you get a physical fitness program okayed by your physician. Have them give you a blessing. There might be some things they want you to do or not do. So you should do that now so that you can start getting ready as opposed to waiting until like 2 weeks before you go get your physical fitness thing, and then it's a little too late. So next slide. Now, I adapted this program that I sent out to you guys from the May, June, and July editions of Field and Stream. The author was Michael Shea, and it was actually designed by Cameron Hayes of Under Armour. So while I adapted it, we added some other different things to it. Much of the basic work for this was by these two gentlemen. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, it's a 3-month program, and what it's going to allow you to do is going to focus on your cardiorespiratory system, your strength training, and your joint health. Now, no, these exercises work for someone who's already in okay shape. So if you're not in okay shape, work up to it. If you can't complete your repetitions, just do as many as you can and work yourself up to that point. But it is a 3-month program that is designed for, and it gets progressively harder as you get into the later months. and it's designed to bring you up to a good shape before you get out onto your track at the end of 3 months. Next slide, please. These are just the references, and those are in your program there. If you want to take a look at them and see the original, feel free. Next one. And hydration. Water is your key to health and survival. When you go up there, we're going to provide you with methods of getting pure water. There's a couple of different ways. You have the Kelly kettle for boiling them on the stoves, but the main ones we have are the MSR 6-liter bags. All the crews will have that. Those are a gravity-fed bag. The water comes in on one side, it pushes it through a filter, and then at the other end you get clean water. And we also have a Sawyer squeeze bag, which is you put water into a bag and you squish it yourself through the filter. A little more work, but it's good for like if you're on the boat and you don't want to go to shore, you just want a quick bit of water. So you will have the ability to get all the water you need. The trick is most people will not drink it. Okay. Now the problem with that is most injuries that can be avoided by staying hydrated. Hypothermia or cold-related injuries, a lot of those come to the forefront because you're not fully hydrated. Your body doesn't have the ability to cope with the cold because it doesn't have enough fluid. Same thing for hypothermia-related injuries, but that one is kind of intuitive. Most people assume that, but the hypothermia ones, they don't. You need to stay hydrated. This is probably the best way for anyone to check their fluid intake, the urine color, okay? Everybody goes, ooh, but it's the easiest way. Obviously, it's something that the scouts and the trekkers have to do for themselves. You're going to want to watch the urine stream, not to be gross or anything, but you want to watch the urine stream, not what ends up in the bucket, because you want to know the exact color. So if you've got it at the upper end of this chart, you're okay. If you're down at the lower end of this chart, you're not so good. Make sure you drink more water. A good rule of thumb for the water is that rule that's over on the side. You calculate it out, someone my size needs about 3 quarts of water a day. Total fluids, it doesn't have to be just water. But you should drink somewhere around a couple quarts of water a day anyways. It's good for you. Next slide, please. This is what happens if you don't get enough water. You lose 2 quarts of body fluid, that's about 2.5% of your weight. Your efficiency is going to decrease by 1/4, which is a lot of fun. You can also, at that point, you probably got a very violent headache and your brain is foggy. Been that dehydrated before? It's not really the most fun thing you can do. So for any of you kids or even people out there who've never been really dehydrated before, if your head starts getting thick and it feels like your thoughts are going through peanut butter, you're dehydrated. If you lose fluid up to 15% of your body weight, usually you're dead. So you don't really want to get to that point. And that's not all that many liters of fluid, but that's usually someone who's been out somewhere where they couldn't get water. People will drink before, hopefully, they get to that point. Next slide. Now the trick is, though, most adults and scouts will not drink readily and will need to be encouraged to drink more water. The real problem is, remember that 2 quarts of water, 2.5%? Right? Well, you normally don't start feeling thirsty till you're down 2 quarts. So most people right now are walking around dehydrated anyways. So then you put the stress of paddling in the sun or portaging in the heat, and you might be more dehydrated than you think. So you want to really encourage people to drink water. I'm a bit of a hydration Nazi when it comes to that, because I would rather you have a great trek, and I also don't want to have to be treating people for injuries. Okay, so a little bit of it's self-serving. I don't want to have to do the first aid. Paperwork's never very much fun. You guys don't want the first aid done on you, so let's just drink some plenty of water here. Next slide. You want to drink before you become thirsty. Don't carry water in your canteen. Always make sure you carry it in your belly. Most of this information is actually coming from the military, and this is a huge change in that. It used to be the military said carry it in your canteen, don't carry it in your belly, take small sips. Now they just say drink the water. You want to take frequent drinks, probably about once an hour. Everybody stops, takes some drinks, maybe depends on the heat, but a third or half of their water bottle, their Nalgene bottle. You always want to drink water when you're eating. Your body needs water to be able to metabolize the food. If you don't drink water when you're eating, you will end up dehydrated. Try to drink 1 quart of water in the morning. Because you've been all night long without drinking, you're going to be dehydrated then. If you start the day without putting water in, you're not going to have as nice of a morning. Another tip is conserve sweat, not water. Next slide. These are all different tips that you can do to encourage the kids or remind people to do things. Another thing, water when it's warm is kind of yucky tasting. So it's possible drinking when it's cool. A nice way of doing that is if you have an old sock, get the sock wet and put your Nalgene in it. And the wind blowing through the sock while you're sitting in the canoe and cool the water down, it'll taste better. Next slide. The other thing you can do is packets of some sort of flavor. There's always something to flavor the water. Put a little something in the water. It's really good at encouraging people to drink water. I know myself personally. If I had just a bottle of water like this one, one second, I'll answer the question again. If I just have a big bottle of water like this, I get down about this point, I really don't feel like drinking the rest of it. But if I put something tasty in it, I don't have to worry about it. I'll drink the whole thing. Okay, next slide. And these are the sources. Dave, you have a question?
The flavoring, each of the crews with your food packets, you'll get packets of Gatorade. Okay, there'll be enough Gatorade for everybody to have, I think, 3 or 4 apiece.
So that's it. If anybody has questions, I know they were trying to get to everything here so that you guys can get to picking your food and your route. If you have questions afterwards, I'll be here all night. So try to be able to.
Awesome. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Fantastic. All right. So, Dave, you want to talk a little bit about Leave No Trace and what kind of training is available for Leave No Trace? And
Leave No Trace. How many people remember a book from the 1950s? Probably about 5 or 6 people in the room will, but it's titled The Ugly American. Anybody have to read The Ugly American when they were in high school in the 60s? It was written by a newsman who was in Southeast Asia, not just Vietnam, but he traveled all over Southeast Asia. And he based the title, The Ugly American, on the reaction that the local people had on the way the Americans acted. Okay, you're going to a foreign country. This is a little bit separate from the Leave No Trace. But we just want to point out, you're going to a foreign country, act like you're going to your grandmother's or to you were invited to a party. You're not, you're back, your family. Okay, now Leave No Trace. Everybody has a pretty basic idea of what Leave No Trace is. The guides are all trained in Leave No Trace awareness. The Outdoor Ethics Committee will come to your unit and do an outdoor ethics presentation if you want. That's Leave No Trace, the land ethic, and tread lightly. 15, 20 minutes. See me afterwards if you want us to do that. But basically, basic rule for Leave No Trace in Algonquin is pack it in, crack it out. Has anybody been to Algonquin, say, 15, 20 years ago as a kid? Any of the adults? Algonquin used to have a terrible reputation for garbage and litter in the campsites in the interior. And the reason was they allowed people to take glass bottles, cans, and a lot of other things. And when they prohibited that, it made it a lot easier for people to carry the stuff up. They only let you go in the back country with plastic, so it worked. And over the last 25 years, the park has been totally cleaned up, and we want to leave it the way it is. When you go to your campsite, you're usually going to hit your campsite 2 or 3 in the afternoon. Take a good look at it, see what kind of shape it's in. If there's litter or trash or something, pick it up, put it by the side of the fire pit, and when you leave the next day, pack it out with your own stuff. When you leave the next morning, when you got stuff loaded in the canoe, just take a quick look at your campsite again. Should be better than when you left. Okay? That's basically the Leave No Trace. I just want to mention a couple different things that I thought of. The PowerPoint presentations that we're doing today and the one we did at the meeting in January will be available online. So if there are people here that are not here from your unit, you want to go over it with them, you can download it. It'll be available for training. And then the last thing, when we were talking about the communications devices, it's not a bad idea for one of the parents who's at home to have a phone tree of all the other parents. And then each night, usually around dinner time, after dinner, when things kind of settle down, the guide, one of the adults, will contact the person at home that has the phone tree, that's heading up the phone tree, just send them a quick message. Everything's fine. Johnny paddled all day. His father didn't. That kind of stuff. Put short messages. And that way, we know, they know that where you are and everything's okay. And if they have anything they want to relay back, they can text the message back. Okay. When the message comes across on the home cell phone, it will have a text message, but it will also have a www address so that they can type a message on the computer and send it to the same address, as long as they get the whole address. Okay? Any questions about Leave No Trace? The last thing I want to say about Leave No Trace, in Algonquin Park, the park rangers say you can burn plastics. We say we really don't want you to burn plastics. Their thought process with it, and it makes some sense because they're dealing with a lot of people who don't do a lot of camping and stuff. They think it's better to have the people burn the plastic than to leave it there. Okay? They would really like you to take it out, but if you ask the people at the that have these Rangers uniforms and stuff on up there, if you ask them, well, can we burn plastic? They'll say yes. Hopefully they'll say yes, but we'd rather you take it out. Okay?
Good. Okay. Any questions about that? So far, so good? Awesome. All right. You want to cover the risk zone, Dave?
Yes. I really wanted to ask you a question before this slide was put up there. But what's the highest incidence of injuries and fatalities in the Scout program every year for the last 4 years? The cause. Safe driving. Getting you and your kids, your scouts, your crew from home to Algonquin Park, or from home to Shokoff, or from home to Philmont, or wherever you're going. It's amazing how I want to just say where I'm coming from this. I was a driver, trainer, and a manager with UPS for 30 years, so I got it beat into me, and I saw a lot of things on the road that really bothered me. But it's amazing how cavalier the average American is about driving accidents. Okay, every time somebody's electric or hit by lightning in the country, does it make the news? It makes the news. You know how many people were hit by lightning last year in the U.S.? 7 or 8. It averages between 8 and 10. Okay, you know how many motor vehicle accidents or motor vehicle deaths we have a year, average? How many?
30,000.
Yes, between 25 and 30,000. So remember, if you don't remember anything else, when you're driving up there, you've got your son in the car. You've also got other scouts in the car. Their parents aren't there. So remember, all of our routes or all of our staging from leaving Buffalo to get up there and get from Midland over to Algonquin Park, there's plenty of time to drive. You're driving through areas that you haven't seen the scenery before. Take your time to see the scenery. Okay? And just quickly going through this, distracted driving, drowsy driving, distracted driving. So you know, if I'm pulling a trailer, one of the Algonquin trailers, Birchbark trailers, I don't ever have any kids riding with me. Not that I don't like kids. I got grandchildren and kids and stuff, but it's easier. There's new rules on multi-passenger vehicles. If you're renting a van, if it's bigger than a 12-person van, there's new safety requirements that have to be on it. The person you rent it from will know it if you rent it from Avis or something. But if you borrow the church van, or you borrow the Boys and Girls Club Lancaster van, they might not have all the equipment you need on there. Okay, so double check that. And then just vehicle safety and trailers. None of you will be pulling trailers. The guys will pull all the trailers. That's what I want you guys to think about. That's it.
Okay. All right. So we're going to have Joe just talk real quick, just a little bit about the route selection process, and then you're actually going to do this process a little bit later here today. So Joe, why don't you talk about how we pick routes, what's involved, and what are they going to be doing today?
The route selection is best by the crew by how much you canoed before. Bigger crews, stronger boys, and more aggressive, that have done more canoeing would take more of an aggressive route. You got little guys and that, you'd want to take a 20, 30-mile route with less portages. If you got 16, 18-year-old boys that are big, strong guys that want to do 70, 80 miles with 3,000-meter portages, that's what you're looking for. And by it says rigorous, moderate, easy. That's pretty much where that's going to go through. Some of the real easy ones, you have a layover night for one night, so you'll stay in one campsite for 2 nights, which then you can set your pace for the next day, whether you paddle a couple miles or you want to go out and do 10 miles. It's pretty much basic. We'll go over tonight. If you haven't had your routes picked, or if you have some questions on should I do this route or shouldn't I do this route, about all I really have to say.
Okay.
The one thing I have, how many want to do a 50 miler? How many of the scouts want to do 50 miles? If you want to do a 50 miler, you see a route that's only 45 miles and you
We can
say,
make it happen.
that's great, but it's not 50 miles. Go ahead and take it. You're going to be in the campsite on each day, roughly between 2 and 3 o'clock. You got time to set up your tents, have an easy dinner, take your canoes out, take a couple mile paddle around the lake each day when they're empty.
Sidetrack, yeah.
Those miles count.
And then your service project, you can do most of it at home, some you can do up there. In a couple of years, we've had some guys that have done 40 milers, and you just, every day you do a couple, 2-3 miles side trips throughout.
So
Plus,
you're talking about the extra reward for the 50 miler?
yes.
I don't think my guys know what that is.
Yeah, you have-
50 miler is a patch you get, and it says 50 miles on it, where it's hiking at Philmont or canoeing or biking or whatever. It's a nice little patch. You got to do a service project where picking up garbage, fixing up a 10-hour service
10
project.
hours worth of
Conservation. And you get a nice patch, and you get the patch right here at the store. It's just a good, pretty neat little thing for the boys that haven't had. Some people get a multitude of 50 milers.
Yes, for some people, it's getting the trifecta, one for biking, one for canoeing, and one for hiking. Yep.
Canoeing merit badge. A lot of us guys are canoe merit badge, canoe merit badge guys. You can get that, so the boys, when they're up there, you can get that. Print your packet off, start doing some of the side work at home, and then when we get up there, we'll do the hands-on stuff. So that's one merit badge for them. So.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Joe. All right, food ordering process. It's pretty straightforward. We gave in your advisor book, there's some of these forms. If you need another one, we got some more up here. But basically, this form, you're going to put your leader name, email address, your crew identifier, and if you haven't figured out yet, we do by T for troop, then your number, and if you've got 2 crews, which you guys have got, you have an A and B crew. That's how we keep them straight. So it would be T545A and B is what the crew numbers would be. And it's important we have the leader's name, email address, and phone number. And if there's any allergy considerations, any of the crew members have any allergy considerations, make sure to jot them there. And then you're going to select, breakfast, lunches, and dinners based on this list here. The black diamonds indicate kind of the favorites, which is the default meal. If we don't get this form by the end of March, we extended it because of our snow day. You'll get that default menu, all right, which tends to be pretty popular. And so just so you know, that's what the black diamonds are like. It's the popular default menu. If you say you just want the default, just say default and turn it in. But if you want to obviously customize it, feel free to do so. At the bottom is a list of all the things that are included, and there's a couple things that we suggest that you bring that are not included. All right, coffee, tea, hot sauce, a few other things, spice wheel. A lot of people like to bring a little spice wheel with oregano for the spaghetti, or Tabasco sauce for some of the pastas is really good. And especially if you go catching your mussels, you'll want to have some hot sauce. All right, and again, it can't be in a glass bottle, so you have to put it in a plastic bottle or buy in a plastic bottle. Okay, any questions on how that's going to work? And again, if there's any special considerations, last month Dave talked about how he'll be happy to work with you. Just jot it down there, and he'll reach out and make a call. So this will be one of the things you turn in today. Okay. Any questions on how that's going to work? All right. And same with those itinerary worksheets too. By the way, there's some of those up here too. Itinerary planning worksheets. You'll be turning these in today too. Okay. All right. So now I just want to talk about what to do between tonight and our shakedown. And we'll talk about the shakedown in a couple of slides. But the whole idea, why do we do this so early in the dead of winter? Well, first of all, it's easy to get your attention this time of the year. There's nothing else going on. But honestly, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, for you to get these, to get the lakes that you want to stay on and the itineraries that you want to stay on, we actually have to make the reservations now. If you belong to any of the Facebook groups or any of this stuff that's for Algonquin, you will see a constant stream of chatter complaining about that they can't get campsites and can't get reservations. A lot of them are complaining about base campsites, Pod Lake, Lake of Two Rivers, some of the, the regular traditional campgrounds. But at this point, this is the time of the year we can get campsites on the prime lakes and get them in and get the reservations in. So that's why we're asking to do it now. And the second thing is now we have time between this meeting today and June or July that you can get your scouts trained with all those skills that are in those books that we gave out last month. And now you've got an opportunity to start to put together some program ideas for troop meetings. You can, for example, plan a night to just go over knots. And some of the knots that we know you're going to use are in that book. You could spend a night to talk about canoeing merit badge and make sure everybody knows what a gunnel is. So if you say, get that off the gunnel, they know what you're talking about. All right, those kinds of things. You can work on these program ideas, and the books we gave out last month are loaded with all kinds of program ideas. So take a few campouts or a few evening meetings to work with not only your crew, but maybe the whole rest of your troop, and talk about some of these, use some of these elements as you build out your programs for the spring. It usually augments your whole troop and brings them up to stuff. And not only will they be helping the crew, but you'll be helping future crews down the road as they get more familiar with it. All right. And of course, the whole idea of why are we working on getting you guys ready so far in advance? So really the whole idea is we want you to go up there and have a good time, right from the moment you get there until the time you come home. The frustration that comes with not being able to figure out how to get the bear bag up, or the frustration goes with not knowing how to get the tarp up in the middle of a rainstorm. It's just a lot easier to get those skills perfected before you leave here, and then just have a good time up there. All right, make sense? Good. All right. So our shakedown. This is the next time we probably will see a lot of you. Now, admittedly, we'll be happy to come to a troop meeting, by the way, do any of those program ideas if you like. If you would like to bring somebody in to do community merit badge, we'd be happy to do so. But our next get together is actually June 8th. We originally had it June 1st. We had to move it to June 8th. So apologize if you have to update your calendar. And we really want this to be mandatory for the whole crew. It's I know it's tough for some schools. It's prom weekend and there's things that bump in, but really, really, really try to don't let a piano lesson or something like that get in the way of this. This is really important for the scouts. And this is for all the adult advisors and the youth. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend a day in Algonquin. You're basically going to go through all the steps of setting up camp, what the process is like of preparing a meal. You're going to have 2 hours of canoeing time. You're going to be on the water for 2 hours of canoeing. We're going to have some safety sessions. We're going to go over safety float and safe swim. We're going to take your dry pack and throw it in the lake and see if it's really is a dry pack or if it's just a delayed wetness pack. We ask you to basically come dressed in the clothes that you plan on pushing off on. All right, so when we push off into the backcountry, come dressed with those clothes. Bring your dry bag with a change of clothes, and those could be driving home kind of clothes. They don't necessarily have to be anything, but it would be good to bring your change of clothes you plan on bringing to Algonquin, right? Bring those, put that in your dry sack, and we're going to throw that in the lake for about an hour. Bring a piece of rope per crew, and this is good for practicing knots, et cetera, et cetera. It never hurts for each individual scout to have a little piece of rope to practice some of the knots if we have some downtime. Every crew should have a compass or two. You should be wearing your water shoes, like I said, like you're going to push off because you are going to do wet entries in and out of the canoe. And that's the one thing, we'll talk about this when we're up there, but the canoe is floating in the water and you need to get in it, and it's usually best to just walk out into the water and step in the canoe. All right, it's called a wet entry, and it's by far the best way and reduces the probability you entirely getting wet. The change of clothes, again, we're not planning on you actually dumping. It does happen every year. At least one canoe goes over. Okay, so just be prepared to maybe get wet, and bring yourself a lunch and a hearty snack when you come up there. Right, we don't provide you lunch, but if you want to bring a lunch and just a little snack for everyone. And if it happens to rain, and so far we've been lucky, most of the years we've avoided it. If you have your tarp or have a tarp and some ropes, then it will give you a chance to set up a little shelter so that if you wanted to get out of the rain, you have a place you can hide while maybe you're waiting your turn for the next thing or something like that. All right. So that's June 8th. It's at Scout Haven. Everyone knows where that is. I'm sure by now. We don't have to explain that. If you could be there promptly at 9 in Lakeside Lodge, ready to go, and you can guess what song we're going to sing when we get there, can you? Yes. All right. Well, we had great plans for the University of Scouting, but it's going to get rescheduled to later in the fall, I think, right? Yeah. All right. So we'll keep your ears peeled for that. I don't know, is there anyone who had some specific training that had to get out of the way before they go up there, youth protection, or, I mean, you can probably fill that in. All right. Charles, you want to talk about this, or Sean? Where's Sean? You guys want to talk about this?
Go ahead, boss. All right. Sir Charles of Avonshire. Sean Gowan and myself are both certified American Canoe Association instructors. And myself personally, I don't know about Sean, I'd love to get together with you and teach your crew how to canoe. And I could spend all day Sunday with you, or all day Saturday, or
Friday.
And
Yep.
you go through a course. And in the course, I can actually certify you at the introductory level of canoeing. And you can earn an ACA canoe patch like Sean's wearing. And you'll learn everything about canoeing so that when you get on the water at Algonquin, you are off and running as opposed to zigzagging. And I've seen it both, so I highly recommend, if you'd like the training, you can get a hold of myself, Sean, Dave, or
Yeah. Yep. Alan. Yes. So yeah.
I
So
wanted to call him Percy.
yes, it's okay. So we actually have a registration for this on the GNFC website, and this is the registration link for it right there. And we've got this actually on the calendar. So if you go to the WNYscouting.org/Birchbark, if you look on the right-hand side on the calendar, it's one of the items that's on the calendar. And if you'd like to bring your whole crew out, this training is Friday before the shakedown. If you'd like to bring your crew out and stay Friday night, you're more than welcome to stay with us. The guides all are going to be there Friday night. We usually have some training that we have to do with the guides that Friday night and do preparations for Saturday morning. But you're more than welcome to come Friday, do this training, and then stay the evening if you so choose. And if it's just a couple of adults that wants to come, that's perfectly fine. Or a part of a crew, that's fine. But it's a great opportunity to get your ACA certification. If you have a small group, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Charles, if you have a small group and you want to choose a different date, you can get a hold of Charles or Sean, and they can do custom training. Charles has got a couple of great spots that he runs the training I think he did it in Honeywell Lake when we were up there last time, in Canisius Lake. So there's a couple of places you get a chance to go canoe someplace that you haven't been before. So not a bad way. Yes.
Couple things. If your unit does not have access to canoes, the council has a canoe trailer at Shokoff with canoes on that you can rent. If you just want a canoe for a day, you can go to Don Miller Park in North Tonawanda. Does everybody know where that is? They'll let you use their equipment. just get a hold of me and I'll call and make sure that you got a reservation. And there's no charge for it at the Don Miller Park. Okay. He would just like to plan it ahead and have one of the Birchbark guides there with us. So any Saturday or Sunday, or maybe a day off from school, if you want to go over there, I have the contact information. Just get a hold of me. And that's on the it's on.
Look, great.
Yeah, Ellicott Creek. It's opposite. If you know where the dog park is on Ellicott Creek Park, it's on the opposite shore of that. Pretty easy to find. You go over Robinson Road into North Tonawanda. As soon as you get off the bridge, you make your first left. It's down about 500 yards on the left, but it's free. You just gotta find that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great resource. Okay. So with that, what we're going to do is have a guide match up with each one of your crews at this point, and work on your itineraries and your menus, answer any questions you've got. And again, bring those papers when you're done with them and got them all filled out up here. We'll check them in, and then your crew's free to go for the evening. And there's no closing song.
Any disappointment? Before we break up into groups, does anybody have any questions about anything we talked about?
Dry bag size?
Dry bag size is 20 liter, and that's basically 10 inches in diameter and about 18 inches tall.